it's Marina, travel experta. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about traveling to Guatemala. Are you ready to make every day an adventure? We're going to begin with Guatemala. So the first time I ever heard about Guatemala was over 20 years ago when I was backpacking and traveling through the US, Mexico, and I really wanted to learn Spanish. And everywhere I went, everybody was like, Guatemala is the place to learn Spanish. They have the cheapest private Spanish lessons in the world. That's how I ended up in Guatemala. Originally, I also arrived to Guatemala as a visitor because when you're traveling to different places, you usually have between 7 days to 2 weeks tops. And when people arrive to Guatemala, there's usually three top locations that everyone kind of goes to when they first arrive, like the first time. If you're going to stay longer, I have special ideas for you as well that you could add in. And each of these locations has a separate podcast to get really more detailed. This is just to give you the whole travel aspect of traveling in Guatemala. So when you arrive to Guatemala, usually you arrive by air. You arrive to Aurora International Airport. It's this tiny, really accessible, really easy airport. So it's great. There's only that one terminal. I personally recommend to have a taxi or a driver already waiting for you because you just don't want to take the risk of just some pirate taxi. There is a taxi that is part of the airport, but you could also have a driver already set up. It's just much more safe and sound kind of a situation. So when you arrive to Guatemala City. Now, when you're only coming for 7 days to 14 days, you really don't want to spend that much time in Guatemala City simply because there's a lot more things to do. And the very first place usually where people go to is Antigua. Antigua is what Guatemala really is known for. It's this beautiful colonial, colorful cobblestone town nestled in a valley that is surrounded by three amazing volcanoes. So that's really the place that everybody goes in. It's only 1 hour from the airport. So you could get into your cab or the driver, whatever, and go straight to Antigua. Now, if you arrive early enough, another place that people go to almost immediately is Tikal. It's the northern region of Guatemala, which is the most famous Mayan ruin. You could take an airplane there. It's only like 45 minutes, but that's only if you arrive early enough and you can make that connection and to arrive directly to Tikal. I will come back to that northern region in just a minute because first I'm going to start with what the majority of people do, which is go to Antigua. So when you arrive to Antigua, like I said earlier, it is this adorable 10-block squared town, literally. Cobblestones, colorful. It's a UNESCO site. And you should have a hotel, a hostel, or an Airbnb already booked up simply because you don't want to arrive and just walk around with your backpacks or suitcases. You want to be on top of it already. And there's so many different amazing hotels and hostels if you're traveling lower budget, or even Airbnbs from private rooms to full homes, colonial style homes. So make sure that you have that. You do not need a car when you are in Antigua. Everything is pretty much walkable. You could also take tuk-tuks. Tuk-tuks is a very popular mode of transportation to get around Antigua and the surrounding areas of Antigua. So Antigua, if you do come to Antigua, I definitely recommend 2 to 3 days minimum. 1 day just for sightseeing, to go to Central Park, to go to the cathedral. Jade is the national gem kind of Guatemala. So there are jade museums, and it was the main stone, the main gem, the main rock that the Mayans used. So it is really interesting. And there are some places you could go and visit, different museums. So there's also some really cool day trips that you need to take when you get to Antigua. So the really big thing to do in Antigua is to go to a volcano. So as I mentioned earlier, Antigua is literally in the heart of the Ring of Fire, which is three different volcanoes. You have Agua, which has been dormant, and it is like the main conical volcano that's right there. You could certainly go for a hike on it. However, it's the least popular one to visit like that. It's just kind of a thing that you enjoy and admire from anywhere you are in Antigua. Then there's the two volcanoes that you can visit. One is Pacaya. Pacaya is actually not visible from Antigua, but it is a really popular tour to go and see. And I have an entire episode visiting Pacaya, so make sure that you go and listen to it a little bit more detail. But this is the one where you could walk on lava stones, you could roast marshmallows on the lava rock. So that's one type of, and that is a day trip. You could do by horse or hike. It's a relatively mild hike. And then the most, excuse me, the most popular volcano tour to take is Akatenango and Fuego volcano. There's actually two volcanoes together. You go up Akatenango, but you're looking at Fuego. Fuego is known to be the most popular one because it is the active one. It literally does a volcanic show every single day, pretty much. You could see it erupting and giving you lava and whatnot. So the whole Akatenango tour, it's an overnight tour. It is truly roughing it, like you are camping, but it is so worth it. Although I have to say, and again, I have an episode for Akatenango, so make sure that you go and check out that episode. So Akatenango is not a mild hike. It is a pretty, it's medium advanced hike. So make sure that you're doing it. And there are many different operators. Again, I give all the specifics in Akatenango tour episodes, so make sure that you go and really listen to it and understand it. So those are the main tours that you want to take when you are in Antigua. But then when you're also in Antigua itself, you have to go to the Central Market. It is one of the most bustling markets that there is, and it's really, really fun. You could also take a day trip to Chichicastenango, which is literally the largest Central American market in all of Central America. It's 2 hours away from Antigua. You could do a day trip to it. It's only on market days, which is Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. So if you want to do that, you need to definitely hire a tour company, and it's actually cheaper to do that than to have your own car because you don't need a car to do that. So that is pretty much when you are Antigua, right? You could pretty much do all of that within 3-4 days because of the day trips, right? And add an extra day if you're going to be doing the Akatenango volcano hike. So the next really popular place to go is Atitlan Lake. This is about 2-3 hours from Antigua. Again, you could take a shuttle or a private driver, and it will still be cheaper for you than to rent a car. You do not need a car when you get to Atitlan. So again, it will just be that transport from Antigua to Atitlan. I have a whole episode on Atitlan Lake, so please go listen to it to really understand. So Atitlan Lake is a lake that is in a super old volcanic crater that is now obviously completely it's not alive. However, there are volcanoes all around it. Again, they are totally not active, but this crater that was once a volcano is now this lake, and it is surrounded by all these little villages that are known to be where the Mayans live. There's all these different dialects. This is the indigenous villages of Guatemala. It's a really interesting place to go and visit. The main town is called Panajachel. And then there's these other villages, and the only way to really get around is by taking a boat. And you'll see there are these public boats. You could hire a private boat if you're a big enough party, but honestly, you could just take these public boats to any of these locations. So you would start at Panajachel. Then there is another town, really popular town, that's called Santa Catalina. Then another one called San Marcos, or another one, San Pedro. Santiago is the largest town, but it is mainly locals and indigenous. It is interesting to visit, but usually the majority of visitors stay in Panajachel. So you could spend a good 2, 3, even 4 days. It will depend on your schedule to visit. So you could spend one day just enjoying the village you're staying in, one day to do like a village tour, And also you could kayak, you could do, outdoor activities. It depends on what your main interests are when you are visiting. So these are the two main locations that you would do right when you get from Guatemala City. So as I mentioned, Tikal, which is the Mayan ruin, it is all the way in the northern region of Guatemala, is also one of the most popular places to visit. And because it is so far, it's about 9 to 10 hours driving from Antigua or Guatemala City. That's why it is recommended, if you are on a limited time, to fly there. And you could do that from Guatemala City. So then if you're doing Antigua, Atitlan, and then want to go and do Tikal, so you would go back to from either of the villages to Guatemala City to take a plane. There are several planes every day that go up to Flores. Flores is the name of the town that you would visit. And it is this adorable, colorful little island that is about 45-minute drive from Tikal itself. Tikal is a national park. It's also a UNESCO site. It is this humongous rainforest where you have to walk to the actual ruins. The closest ruin is about 1 kilometer in. Again, I have a full episode on Tikal to really understand what you could do there. You could actually stay in hotels right in Tikal National Park, or you could stay in Flores, which is this cute, adorable town. There's also another town in between, and it is called El Remate. And that also has a ton of really cool hotels and even campsites and some Airbnbs. The Airbnbs are in Flores. And Flores and El Remate are on a beautiful lake. So that makes the stay even more attractive, and you could go swimming into this lake. So you really don't need more than one night there. So like a day and a half in that whole region, and you could fly back to Tikal. So a lot of people put that trip either in the very beginning when they first arrive and they fly directly to Flores, spend the night, spend all day in Tikal, and then take an evening flight back to Guatemala City, and then go with the first ideas of going to Antigua and then Atitlan, or they do it at the very last part. So they do Antigua, Atitlan Lake, and then they go back to Guatemala City, take a flight there, do Tikal, fly back, and either spend one night in Guatemala City or catch their flight. So that is the most popular thing to do. And it's usually a good 10 days. You could certainly cut down on some of the days that you will be in certain areas. So this really captures all of the highlights of Guatemala. Now, if you are lucky enough and have extra time, there are some incredible other locations to visit. One of them is called Rio Dulce, and it's right on the river. That's why it's called Rio Dulce. And you could take a boat to Livingston, which is this town completely inaccessible other than by boat. There's no cars. There's nothing that you could take to get there. So this is a really cool place, but it is about a 5-hour drive from Guatemala City to get there. So you have to add an extra 3 or 4 days. Also, another place, again, everything is from Guatemala City, and then I was saying it's a really popular trip is to Samuk Champey, and it is considered one of the wonders of Guatemala. It is these beautiful blue pools where you could river raft and tubing, and it's just this incredible place, very much in nature. Again, it's about a 7-hour drive from Guatemala City. There are no planes. And I have episodes for each of these to really help you if you want to go there. And there are little towns that you could visit surrounding that area. And you need at least 3 or 4 days simply because it's one day drive there and one day drive back. So at least 2 or 3 extra days just for that certain area alone. And then another really popular city to visit is Shela or Quetzaltenango. That's a really popular place. It's where a lot of Spanish schools exist. A lot of people go and learn Spanish, and it is the second largest city of Guatemala outside of Guatemala City. So this is a really popular place to visit, and that is about a 4-hour drive from Guatemala City or from Antigua. It does not matter where you're going to be going from, and you want to probably spend at least 2 days there to visit. So again, these have all separate episodes that I really recommend you check out to see if this is what you want to go and visit. And if you have any questions, you could also send me an email. You could just go directly to my site, travelexperta.com, where it's travelexpert with an A.com. And if you want to just have some cool make everyday and adventure ideas, you could get a free list there. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a review and make sure to share it with your friends, family, or whoever is interested to visit Guatemala or have fun ideas about making every day an adventure.